What you are seeing now is the scene from April 3rd at Shaxi Village in Panyu District, Guangzhou. A large number of urban management officers holding shields are preventing homeowners who disagree with the demolition from entering their houses. According to the Guangzhou Urban Village Redevelopment Regulations passed by the Guangzhou's People Congress on March 30th, village residents will no longer have the right to decide on compensation plans for demolitions in Guangzhou. The Guangzhou Authority's Urban Village Redevelopment Regulations have removed the clause that required compensation plans to be approved by more than two-thirds of the villagers, directly stripping villagers of their bargaining rights. There are rumors online that the compensation standards are too low. According to local residents, the compensation for demolition is only 1,500 yuan per square meter. This has led to resident protests, and urban management has started forcibly demolishing properties. In the video, a team of uniformed personnel holding riot control shields appear to be preventing villagers from returning to their homes to stop the demolition. An elderly woman, unable to break through the human wall, despairingly lies on the ground. These redevelopment regulations passed by the Guangzhou Municipal People's Congress Standing Committee on March 29th were implemented starting May 1st this year, marking the so-called First Urban Village legislation in China. Local netizens, also residents of the Luochongwei area in Baiyun District, which is also undergoing redevelopment, are dissatisfied with the compensation plans. According to the compensation plan for the Luochongwei area's Tan Village redevelopment announced by the authorities in January, the demolished houses are categorized into three tiers, with compensation ranging from 3,600 per square meter to 2,230 yuan per square meter. Even with the additional 3,000 yuan per square meter acquisition reward for eligible houses, the highest compensation standard is only 6,600 yuan per square meter. If calculated according to the official maximum standard of 300 square meters and the highest compensation rate of 6,600 yuan per square meter, the compensation for a 300 square meter demolished house would only be 1.98 million yuan, or just over 270,000 US dollars. However, the nearest property to Tan Village, Sunshine Garden, is currently priced at 47,100 yuan per square meter for a 110 square meter unit, totaling 5.18 million yuan. Unlike the dissatisfaction with compensation in Guangzhou's redevelopment, some urban village redevelopment projects in Shenzhen that have already started and completed agreements with relocations have ended in failure.
Zhangjiaotang Village in Bantian is typical of Shenzhen's failed redevelopment projects. It was included in the plan in 2008 and began signing agreements in 2013. By 2018, the original villagers had gradually moved out, but by 2023, they collectively moved back in, reinstalling doors and windows for rental or self-use. Over 15 years, from planning to negotiation and signing agreements, moving out and moving back in, many perplexing stories have occurred in between.
When talking about Shenzhen's urban villages and locals, the common impression is that demolishing a village creates many billionaires. However, some locals may now tell you that the current redevelopment of their village could leave them with nothing. On social media, Mr. W shared his experience. It's been over 5 years since we signed the agreement, and it's pretty much confirmed to be a failure. The developer has no funds for development or transitional resettlement fees. Now there's no hope of getting the house back, and there's no rental income. His family is in Longgang. Although their house hasn't been demolished, the floors and windows were removed and sealed with cement bricks. Similar situations are also occurring in multiple urban village redevelopment projects in Shenzhen. For example, in a redevelopment project in Xixiang, the involved real estate company faced financial trouble, leaving signed and relocated houses with doors and windows sealed with cement blocks, and most shops have moved out. In the comments section of Mr. W's post, many people shared similar experiences. They took our buildings, but haven't given us resettlement fees for the past 2 years. It's been over 10 years since we signed, and nothing has happened. Construction has been halted for 2 years with many villagers and even more buyers. Our village is about to be demolished, and now we're really worried it'll end up incomplete. Stop talking about getting rich from demolition. Now many are becoming poor because of it. Demolition, once seen as a symbol of wealth for Shenzhen natives, now makes them anxious. In recent years, the real estate industry has been turbulent, with numerous developers facing financial troubles, causing urban renewal projects to come to a standstill. When an urban village project halts, it can affect hundreds or even thousands of property owners.
In Buji Namendun, the original villagers' houses were leveled, but the developer in charge has stopped working. This project was included in the demolition plan in 2008, and now, 16 years later, the transitional rent for the original villagers has not been honored. Some original owners have started delivering food and driving for ride-hailing services to make ends meet. Many elderly people with the right to move back have passed away, never seeing the project begin. How much longer will Namendun have to wait? No one knows.
Statistics show that many redevelopment projects in Shenzhen's Luohu, Nanshan, and Bao'an districts have come to a halt. Some projects have even had houses demolished, but further construction is nowhere in sight. These projects mostly began about 10 years ago, during a booming real estate market in Shenzhen, when many local residents signed relocation agreements due to high compensation offers. However, as the market changed and developers' financial chains broke, these redevelopment projects could no longer proceed. For instance, in Longgang's Namendun and Mumianwan areas, residents who have had their houses demolished face enormous pressure. They have lost stable living environments and must bear the costs of renting and living expenses. Even local demolition workers are struggling to find work to survive. Initially, when locals signed demolition agreements, many demanded high prices. Unfortunately, market changes and a series of collapses in the housing market disrupted their plans. Wealth from demolition wasn't earned, but came from policy advantages. This is the current situation in Shenzhen. Who is responsible? The stagnation of Shenzhen's redevelopment projects reflects the interplay between policy and market risks. During the real estate boom, developers took advantage of policy benefits to buy land and houses at high prices. However, with market adjustments and the collapse of many large real estate developers, financial chains broke, and redevelopment projects fell into crisis. Shenzhen is planning to release a new government-led urban village redevelopment policy. Can it save these projects? Industry insiders suggest, for stalled urban renewal projects, each project needs to be specifically evaluated and analyzed to see if there is a possibility of alignment with a new policy. The draft for public consultation indicates that Shenzhen will promote 3 types of redevelopment models based on the current conditions and planning requirements of urban villages: demolition and reconstruction, renovation and improvement, and a combination of demolition and renovation. For demolition and reconstruction projects, relocation compensation agreements will no longer be signed with developers, but with district governments. The relocation compensation fees will also be paid by district governments, starting from the day property owners move out and hand over their houses. Compared to market-driven urban renewal projects, Luo Yu, managing director of the Heyi Urban Renewal Group, points out that once the policy is implemented, the urban village redevelopment projects under the new policy will advance relatively faster. The draft for public consultation suggests that the Municipal Planning and Natural Resources Bureau, in conjunction with relevant planning, will organize and prepare for an annual plan for the demolition and reconstruction of urban villages. These projects will be simultaneously included in the district government's annual housing acquisition plan. Under the new policy of one project, 2 plans, the annual plan for urban village redevelopment will be linked to the annual housing acquisition plan. This means that, unlike urban renewal projects, it is not necessary to wait until 95% of the agreements are signed before starting the administrative acquisition process. The government can start the housing acquisition process earlier. This change will lead to increased project advancement efficiency. According to Heyi Urban Renewal Group statistics, the average cycle for Shenzhen's urban village renewal projects from inclusion in the plan to public announcement of the implementation body is 6.4 years. Luo Yu believes that for projects of similar scale, the renovation cycle for projects under the new policy will be significantly shortened. Demolition will be very quick. From the start of demolition, it could be completed within 1 or 2 years. Of course, this is seen from the project perspective. For the property owners of urban villages, the new policy will bring at least 2 challenges. First, the advancement speed is faster, so there is no need to worry about the project being abandoned and not receiving the house. Second, the villagers' expectations for the demolition compensation ratio will need to be adjusted downwards. In the past, market-driven urban village redevelopment projects had compensation ratios exceeding 1.3 or even 1.5, but this is no longer possible. It is understood that Shenzhen already has more than 10 urban village redevelopment projects as pilot projects for the new policy, covering almost every district. According to the draft for public consultation to ensure a smooth transition from old to new policies, July 24, 2023 will be the demarcation point. Existing urban village redevelopment projects will be handled in a categorized manner. During this transition period, the three models of urban village redevelopment might coexist: market-driven urban renewal, government-led land preparation and interest coordination, and the new urban village redevelopment policy. On one side, the market-driven approach may offer a higher demolition compensation ratio, but faces uncertainty in project advancement under the current circumstances. On the other side, the government-led approach provides higher certainty in project advancement, though the compensation ratio might not meet property owners' expectations. As cities develop, houses age. Relevant data shows that there are approximately 220,000 old communities in China built before the year 2000. How to update dilapidated and old buildings in urban renewal is a crucial issue that city construction must address. Recently, the Luohu District Office issued a notice calling on the owners of the old Honggang Garden community to raise funds for renovation themselves. This old community's buildings often have falling cement chunks and leaking roofs, making them uninhabitable. Over 10 years ago, a real estate company attempted to redevelop the area, but the homeowners felt the company lacked the necessary qualifications and strength, resulting in low agreement rates. After waiting eagerly for 10 years, the redevelopment seemed impossible. In 2019, the homeowners started applying for government-led redevelopment, believing it would be quicker, but that also stalled. Currently, due to the unclear situation, last year the Luohu Customs Caopu residential area became Shenzhen's last government-led redevelopment project. With the downturn in the real estate market, developers are struggling to survive and dare not touch old redevelopment projects. Many projects cannot even pay the transitional fees and have stopped work. It's reported that this year, developers in Shenzhen owe homeowners over 20 billion yuan in transitional fees. In Luohu District, there are many new buildings that are hard to sell. This old community lacks location advantages, surrounded by old, dilapidated areas with poor facilities. So, even the previously anticipated developers now likely lack the courage to take on the project. With neither the government nor developers having the funds, the only option for renovation is for the homeowners to finance it themselves. The current notice lacks details, such as how much each homeowner should contribute and the specific process. However, this is not unprecedented in Shenzhen, as there have been successful cases elsewhere. On March 18th this year, the first self-demolished and self-built community, headed by homeowners, is a building from the 1970s, built on Jichun Street in Huaidu District, Guangzhou. Over 20 homeowners raised over 8 million yuan, with a standard of 4,600 yuan per square meter. This approach proved to be more cost-effective than buying new homes. Within just 6 months, the homeowners had agreed on and finalized the renovation plan, and most importantly, the funds were secured, demonstrating impressive efficiency. One crucial factor was the active role of the local government, which simplified the process and subsidized the design fees in the early stages. A state-owned enterprise carried out the renovation, and due to the small number of participants, the efficiency was significantly higher. In Zhejiang, the first national case was in the Zhegong New Village community on Chaowang Road, Gongshu District, Hangzhou. This community, built in the 1980s, had a good location and developed transportation, but old buildings with many safety hazards. Last year, 548 homeowners raised 470 million yuan to demolish and rebuild the 3 dilapidated buildings. Homeowners only needed to contribute 1,350 yuan per square meter, and they could exchange for new apartments of the same size. If your house is 100 square meters, you would only need to spend 135,000 yuan to get a new house. Meanwhile, the surrounding houses are selling for 37,000 yuan per square meter. To buy a new house, you would need 3 to 4 million yuan. With a 30-fold price difference, homeowners are becoming more proactive. Additionally, the government provides a rental subsidy of 3,000 yuan per month. Having state-owned enterprises carry out the renovations also shows a sincere commitment. Other regions in China have also practiced self-demolition and self-reconstruction. These bottom-up initiatives, from proposal to consensus, design finalization, and completion, typically take 5 to 6 years. For example, the building at No. 4 Huju Bay Road in Gulou District, Nanjing, built in the 1950s, was rebuilt through a self-construction model by its 24 homeowners, with partial government subsidies, taking 7 to 8 years. Similarly, in Chengdu, Chengdu, a community of 72 buildings decided to rebuild their old neighborhood, involving over 3,300 homeowners, which took at least 5 years and is still ongoing. One thing is certain, urban redevelopment has evolved. Previously, homeowners waited for developers to pay for demolition. Now, if demolition is desired, they might need to pay first. Homeowner-funded renovations are likely to become a new trend. However, to make this feasible, the costs must be manageable, and the government must provide adequate support. For example, in Shenzhen, the cost of redevelopment is higher, with expenses potentially reaching hundreds of thousands of yuan. How many people can afford this? If homeowners can't afford such high costs but still want redevelopment, another approach could be to contribute a few thousand yuan as initial funding, akin to a goodwill deposit. Homeowners willing to pay are likely very interested in redevelopment. By signing demolition agreements early, developers can be attracted to invest in the project, reducing the risk of holdouts. This increases efficiency, as time is money in redevelopment. The longer it drags on, the higher the interest and transitional fees, increasing the risk of project failure. In summary, urban redevelopment and shantytown renovations are products of the Chinese government's land finance policy. When the sale of limited land began to approach its limits, the authorities turned their focus to urban renewal. A few years ago, the booming real estate market prompted government officials to encourage developers to actively participate in urban renewal projects. These projects allowed officials to gain political achievements and personal benefits. Developers took advantage of the policies and tax incentives to earn high profits. However, as the real estate bubble continued to burst and developers' financing were interrupted, it became inevitable that many urban renewal projects across the country would fail.